In this new episode of Mastering AI with the Experts, I'm thrilled to welcome Marcus Schmidt, a Principal Program Manager on the Microsoft Customer Experience Application team. Marcus has been pivotal in launching Dynamics 365 Contact Center, enabling enterprises to transform customer service with the power of AI. Outside of his work, Marcus is based in Kansas City, Missouri, where he enjoys hiking, cooking, traveling, and discovering the best barbecue spots with his family. In the following conversation, we'll explore how Copilot in Dynamics 365 customer service addresses the needs of large organizations by enhancing agent productivity, reducing training time, and delivering measurable ROI. Marcus will also share his insights on the evolving role of AI in customer service and discuss some of the key features that make Copilot a valuable tool for enterprises. Let's dive in. So thank you so much, Marcus, for joining me today to discuss customer service, contact center, and more globally how AI will impact the world of customer service agent working with those tools.
Great. It's great to be with you. Super happy to be here.
Awesome. Will be really interesting. So I know recently we announced our contact center product, which people may be familiar with it in the name of omni-channel for customer service. I know there's difference. We will probably cover them during the discussion today. But first, can you please start by giving us a high-level overview of what is customer service, what's contact center, how do they complement each other? So what's the difference between the two products?
Certainly. Let me go ahead and just share my screen here. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. I'll just start with the problem, right? Like, why are we doing what we're doing? And I think we've all experienced this ourselves, right? That service experiences aren't very good. As a customer, right? You are on the left side of this slide, and you are faced with this challenge of, I want to engage a brand and get some help, but which channel do I choose? Like, is it better for me to call? Should I maybe go to their app? Should I text them? Should I engage with them over social channels? Should I email them? There's all these different choices of channel, and depending on the channel you choose, you may get a different experience because those channels typically have different self-service options in them. They have different routing systems in them that ultimately deliver your conversation to an agent should a live agent need to be there, right? If the self-service solution doesn't work, you got to go to talk to a live agent, right? So the same pain and confusion that we all have as customers is also on the agent side, right? The agents have multiple systems they have to deal with. They have, they don't have a big picture of what's going on with the customer. They themselves become, as we call it, human swivel chair middleware, where they're moving data from this app to this app and this system to that system. And so it's just super fragmented and super broken. And then think about the people that run the contact centers. They also have to deal with all these different systems, and they don't get a big picture view of stuff either. So it's every single customer that I talk to is in this boat right now. Like, some to more or less, right? Some have better optimized their service environment. Some are not, and they're still trying to get to the picture where we want to get them to, which, if I go to the next slide here, is more of a complete solution, more of a holistic approach to how we do service, where you let the customer choose their channel. You have an integrated set of self-service options, or what we call kind of customer-facing copilots. Those could be your traditional kind of chatbots or voice bots, but amplified and improved with Copilot. And then we can route those conversations to live agents if we want to. They have a single agent desktop. They have a Copilot experience there to help them as agents. And then supervisors and leaders get a big picture view as well. And as you said in the intro, right, the thing that really is revolutionizing this is generative AI. It's the thing that's helping make all of this kind of come into this sort of a picture. And one more slide, and then I'll be quiet here, is that you think about AI is really a way of accelerating that journey to that ultimate goal, where it becomes this AI learning loop, where all the data that's generated through self-service transactions and through agent interactions and through surveys after a conversation, all of that stuff becomes fuel for AI to make better decisions, or to help agents make better decisions, or customers to make better decisions, and ultimately take more action. So that's why I'm so excited about what generative AI and Copilot can do in contact centers and service. Is it helps everybody all along the spectrum of that journey, and as data is generated, it just gets better and better and better. It learns basically based on the data that is generated.
So it's not only about AI, right? It's also about breaking the silos and making sure that the experience for the agent and for the customers are always the same and are consistent with what the brand
Exactly.
want to. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. And you can ultimately try to take some of the information you gather and the knowledge you get and, as we call it, kind of push it left. So you try to push it out into the self-service channels so more customers can get the answers and take the actions that they need to in self-service before they ever need to get to an agent. So it's kind of a win-win. Like customers, a lot of customers don't want to talk to a live agent, and a lot of live agents are really burdened by a bunch of things that could be much better served with a self-service interaction.
I will assume that by speaking with customer, a lot of people are scared about using those tools, and specifically maybe agent that can be scared of having to use complex AI tools. How do we? Will you answer to a customer service agent that might be worried that it will be too complex to use?
Yeah, it's interesting. The agents that I talk to, there's a little initial trepidation. Some are even worried that this is going to replace them, and they're going to lose their job based on AI. But then I think as they get to use it a little bit more, they realize really it's truly a co-pilot. It's truly there to help them do their job and be their everyday assistant, their everyday AI companion, as we say. And it's as they start to use it, they realize just how easy it is, right? It's basically just a chat interface. If you've used ChatGPT, you know how to use Copilot, right? You can just type something in, ask a question, you get answers back, but it's way more than that, right? It starts to become this thing that helps you get the right answer to your customer. It helps you generate email. Ultimately, it's going to start to take actions on your behalf as well. That's some of the stuff we announced at Build earlier this year. And then I know it was a big topic at the Power Platform Community Conference just last week. So there's a lot of evolution that's happening with Copilot, but I think all the agents that start to use it realize it's just something there to help them. It's another productivity tool to make them that much more productive.
Yeah, basically, it's not taking the fun part of their job, right?
Exactly. Yeah, most agents don't like to type up case notes and recap things and search around in a million different knowledge articles, right? They'd rather just have that interaction with a customer and solve problems. So the more that Copilot can help them do that, the better off they are.
What are the immediate or long term business outcome that a business executive out there looking to implement AI in their customer service department might expect from customer service contact center or Copilot?
Yeah, ultimately, it's going to make new agents more productive more quickly. So it should shorten the amount of time it takes for agents to come up to speed and the amount of time it takes for them to get trained. It should help boost productivity of the agents that they have today. So basically, the same number of agents should be able to work with more customers more quickly. And that gets into the last one, which is the average handle time, or AHT, as you hear it in contact centers. They want to drive that down. So again, not as much time is spent handling a conversation or handling a case, because you don't have to search around to find the right information. You have to keep your customers waiting. Oh, hey, stand by while I look that up, sort of thing, right? Copilot's there to help you do all of that. And then even when you get into wrap up, notes and those kind of things, Copilot can help automate all of that as well. So it's really, get those new agents up and running more quickly, make the existing agents you have more productive, and then help make the overall handling time less.
Do you have data around ROI from implementing those tools?
Yeah, you can definitely quantify it. I mean, if you look at the average cost of an agent, like average hourly cost, right, and just do the math of, look, if I've got these agents that cost me this much per hour, and I can have that same set of agents serve this many more customers, yeah, this is helping me not necessarily expand my agent pool. It's helping me do more with the same amount of people that I have. You can also look at that on a handle time perspective. You can also look at all the what we were in the slide. You saw those kind of customer-facing copilots. So if you can have customer-facing copilots, chatbots, IVR systems handle more things, that's also a very quantifiable savings, because those don't cost nearly as much as a human being does sitting in front of a screen.
You can, as we said, Microsoft, you can achieve more with less, right?
Exactly. Do more with less. Do more with less. You got it.
Now, we'll see a world where people not embracing those technology will lose their competitiveness compared to their competitors, right?
That is also true. I mean, I went to a conference, it was last year, I think middle part of last year, just when sort of all of this stuff was breaking into the mainstream. And it was an analyst conference, and the head of the analyst organization said, this is something we rarely tell customers, but just get started now with something. Like normally an analyst say, well, wait and see what happens, But they're like, it's moving too fast, and your competitors will do it, and they'll take advantage of it. So you need to at least start experimenting and trying things now.
Yes, totally. And actually, I'm telling the same to my customer. And I think using AI is like you need to build this muscle, right? You need to
Exactly.
build the habit of using AI for the agent, but for the customers as well.
Yep, totally right.
And you're better to start somewhere. So start
Exactly.
as
And
fast as
don't
you can.
wait. Don't wait around because other people aren't waiting, right? Then they're gonna take advantage of it sooner rather than later.
But how do you see that AI will transform, this the role of a customer service agent in the next 3 to 5 years, but also how organization interact with their customers, and more generally.
Yeah, I think in the next 3 to 5 years or so, you're going to see this new kind of Copilot agent thing take off. And this gets to be kind of a quite complicated discussion when you're talking about contact centers and human agents and Copilot agents. So we have to parse it out a little bit. But we announced back at Build, and we talked about it at Power Platform Conference. You're going to see more on it as the months unfold here after the time we recorded this. But these agents are going to start to do work on behalf of a person or a team or a whole organization, right? You'll be able to have the agent go do something, as opposed to you just asking questions and getting answers. So a good example of that is something like order fulfillment, right? So if I'm an agent and I'm helping you with, you had something that was damaged in shipping and you need to return it and you need a replacement product shipped to you. Um, Once I validate that all that's accurate, I could just have a Copilot agent go and do that on my behalf. Go and do the replacement shipment. Like go send the new product to Samuel that corresponds to this thing in this quantity, and then it just goes and does the order entry on my behalf and comes back and tells me that it was successful. So I don't have to do all that work anymore. I mean, I think that's transformational in a huge way. It's an amplifier to the workforce you have, having other Copilot agents do the work that typically a human would have to do.
So you'll be able to connect your customer service with any other system out there,
Yeah,
right?
other order entry systems, fulfillment systems, even like other kinds of other systems of record or line of business applications or whatever. Like you, or think you're trying to approve a customer for an increased credit line or a new credit card or something. Have the agent go out and get the customer's credit rating for you and return it right back into the Copilot experience, as opposed to you having to go into a different system to look that up. It's that kind of thing, right? I mean, and that's just scratching the surface. There'll be so many other things that Copilot agents will be able to do for people, and for teams and for whole organizations, for sure.
And how do Microsoft plan to address those new trends? And I think there are challenges that will come out of it as well.
Yeah, it's an area where we're fortunate enough to have taken an early position, and we're in a fairly good leadership position when it comes to a lot of this. You're going to see this really start to roll out as we get into the next couple months. I don't want to scoop our own news. That probably would not be a good idea. But if you watch what's going to happen over the months of October, November, especially culminating with Ignite, you're going to see a lot of interesting things that is showing kind of how we're going to continue our leadership and enhance our leadership. But we've already got a pretty good track record now. I was looking at the stats the other day. I think we're up to like 2.4 million monthly active users using Copilot and Dynamics and Power Platform. So that's pretty impressive, right? I mean, we got over almost 2.5 million people using it now. And that alone is a good thing in terms of it gives us great feedback from everybody using it, like what's working well, what's actually helping them, what's not working so well, and how do we make it better. So we have our own little feedback loop going to make sure that we can improve Copilot and make it that much better for future releases.
So it's 2.4 million only on Power Platform in Dynamics 365. Wow.
Dynamics and Power Platform. So it's a combination of Power Platform and Dynamics. Yeah.
Wow. Now you got me curious. So there's a lot of is going to be announced before the end of the year. Now I know you probably there's a lot of things you probably can't say, but like
Yeah.
globally, what are you the most excited about? So that is publicly known.
Yeah, it's definitely that Copilot agents stuff. I think that's really, really interesting to watch as to how that evolves, where Copilot doesn't just be this, chat companion where it answers questions for you and it starts to do a lot more for you, do a lot more on your behalf. And it goes a little hand in hand with Copilot agents is Copilot Studio. If you haven't looked at Copilot Studio or what used to be called Power Virtual Agents way back when, like a year and a half ago, or not even that, maybe a year ago. Copilot Studio is just so impressive now in terms of the steps it's taken to make it really easy to build your own copilots, those customer-facing copilots, but also to go in and adjust and adapt and basically configure and modify the copilots that Microsoft has. So either the Copilot in Microsoft 365 or the Copilot in Dynamics, Copilot for Service, et cetera. You can start using Copilot for Service, Copilot Studio to go in and adapt and adjust the Microsoft Copilot experience. So it's build your own, but also go in and change ours to basically better fit your needs.
You can literally extend the Copilot and give it access to different data source, different system of records.
Exactly. Yeah. The fact it can tap into all those different knowledge sources and it can do all the generative actions with plugins and everything like that. It's really, really robust. But you can get started super easy, right? You can start it with natural language, describe the Copilot you want to build, and just type out a phrase and it starts walking through building the Copilot for you, right? And then after that, you can adjust it and tweak it and make it more more intricately involved with your other line of business systems, whatever. But it's a low learning curve and an easy way to get started, and then you can go as deep or as complicated as you want to go.
As more people are using it, as more data is pulled in, and as more Copilot, we're talking about extending it. As more Copilot are created, how does the platform will be able to handle this? How the platform will be able to scale with the customer?
Fortunately, we're able to ride on top of the worldwide infrastructure that is Microsoft Azure. So that gives us some sort of inherent scalability foundation and reliability foundation based on Azure, things like Azure availability zones and all of that. It's really something that we're super keyed in on to make sure that we can scale and meet the demands of the load as it comes in. We actually have been using it inside our own support organization for the last a year or so now, maybe a little bit over a year. And we do 145 million customer interactions every year inside Microsoft's own support organization. And we've seen some really, really good results and really, really good performance. So we think, we're not only trying to ask our customers to try it out and give it a shot, but we're using it internally, and we think that's a pretty good testimony and case study as well.
Oh, we're customer zero. I can tell as well with the use of M365 Copilot.
Yeah, exactly. Customer zero is the key thing. Everybody used to use that phrase, eat your own dog food, which I always thought was very disgusting. So I like customer zero much better.
Now, for people not knowing really the Microsoft infrastructure, can you explain what are we using behind the scene to make those Copilot works?
Yeah, it's all, again, riding on top of Azure, but specifically Azure OpenAI. If you look at Azure OpenAI, it's the way of us basically having all of the AI capabilities inside Azure, which is not, even though it says Azure OpenAI, it's not necessarily only tied to OpenAI models. Obviously, we can take advantage of a lot of the OpenAI models that run in Azure OpenAI, but we have a lot of other LLMs from other folks as well, like Meta and what are some of the other ones? I think NVIDIA's models in there now. We have Microsoft small language models, SLMs that are in there as well. And so we've got I oftentimes get questions from customers like, what LLM are you using inside the Copilot Dynamics experience? I said, well, it's GPT 3.5 moving to GPT 4.0, but really you shouldn't have to worry about that. Like, let us manage that under the covers and make sure that we're taking the right LLM and using it for the right purpose. And the fact that we're riding on top of Azure OpenAI helps us do that, right? We can move, from this LLM to that LLM that's more tuned to that use case and not have to have the customer burdened with that problem, right? We can do that on their behalf. So that's the core component is Azure OpenAI. And then obviously we ride on top of Power Platform as well. So all the data that fuels the Copilot experience, a lot of that data is inside Microsoft Dataverse, which is the data layer inside Power Platform. And then we use things like Copilot Studio and other things to make the whole experience happen, that whole end-to-end experience I showed at the beginning. So it's a combination at the highest level of the Azure foundation and then Power Platform on top of it.
So for people who have experience with ChatGPT, which is pretty much everyone, it's a really powerful tool, but as well can sometimes hallucinate. So how do you make sure that Copilot inside of D365 or Copilot in Contact Center will give an accurate and relevant response to the agent?
Yeah, this is a huge question I get a lot as well. So you're spot on in terms of asking this point. The key thing is the idea of grounding the Copilot experience in your data, in your trusted data sources, which is way different than the ChatGPT experience, right? The ChatGPT experience that everybody experienced, used a lot of experience in it. The ChatGPT thing that everybody tried a while back was basically acting over the entirety of the internet, right? So it's looking across the entire, all the internet, finding things, right? And sometimes there's stuff on the internet that isn't right. It's like go find that thing that somebody posted on a Reddit thread somewhere, or somebody blogged about, and that's not super accurate, but it still got picked up by the LLM. So in this case, you're saying, I just want my model to be grounded in my data. So my data could be the knowledge sources, knowledge base inside Dynamics. It could be knowledge sources and knowledge bases in other places. It could be my own publicly facing website. It could be documents inside a SharePoint or OneDrive library. Ultimately, we're moving towards something that would allow you to connect to what we call a knowledge hub. You kind of see this in Copilot Studio today. When you go and configure knowledge sources, you can pick from a whole bunch of them. That's going to be the same general approach that we take across Copilot and across all Copilot experiences. But being able to pick the knowledge sources you trust is a key part of this, right? And that way you can make sure that you're not getting some spurious answer, hallucination, as we like to call them in the AI world.
So what happens if I'm a customer service covering certain type of product in the system, and we have this general knowledge base that is captured inside of Dynamics 365? How do I make sure that the agent is not going to access some unrelevant knowledge article that are stored in Dynamics, for instance? Is it per role or?
Yeah, as the admin, you're controlling first of all what knowledge sources you're going to trust, and then you even enforce at the user level, like are certain users have access to certain knowledge? Do you even decide if you want to have some knowledge only used by certain agents and not by your self-service world, right? Because I talked to a customer that said, well, I might want my agents to know about pre-release product information, but I don't want that published on my customer-facing Copilot on my website or anything like that. So yeah, you can not only control at a granular, at a high-level sense, what knowledge sources you're going to trust, but then you get more granular control beneath that as well.
So I will assume as well that in terms of GDPR and CCPA, that's all something we're able to support that following those guidelines, right?
Exactly. It's part of this. You might have heard Microsoft talk about our responsible AI guidelines. Then privacy and trustworthiness and transparency and all of those things are a key part of that. So we want to make sure that everybody understands that as you use Copilot, your data is your data. Like, we're not using your data to go and make the models better or to commingle with other people's data to form a new set of knowledge that we can use in other places. Your data is your data. It's in your own environment. We're going to make sure that we adhere to the highest levels of compliance, and we'll always post that up on the Responsible AI website for people to take a look at. I think it's one AKA link I can remember. It's aka.ms/RAI if somebody wants to go out and take a look at the Responsible AI stuff.
Great. You spoke about Copilot Studio to help extend the products. Can you tell us a bit more about Copilot Studio and how it can help tackle the knowledge that will be used to the different industry out there?
Yeah, this is one of the most innovative things I think the Copilot Studio has done. This idea of saying I have a knowledge hub where I can point it to a variety of different knowledge sources. And if you don't have a knowledge source that's supported, like it supports Confluence and ServiceNow and Salesforce and OneDrive and SharePoint and Dynamics, obviously, and all these different places, right? But you can use any of the Power Platform connectors, or you can build your own connector, right, to connect into your own data source. So it's you can cast as broad or as a narrow of a net to try to capture the knowledge that you care about. You can even upload a file or two to it. Like if you say, well, I want, here's a special little chunk of knowledge, I want to have that Word doc or that text file as a knowledge source, you can upload that as well.
So how does Microsoft support enterprises and organizations through the deployment, and scaling with Contact Center?
Well, the first thing is it's not just Microsoft supporting it. We have this really awesome network of partners all around the world that can come in and help customers not only, first of all, identify what they want to do and plan out their their implementations, their deployments, actually help them through the implementation and deployment and the going live process, and then supporting them after the fact. So we have it's Microsoft plus all of these partners that are out there. So having a partner involved is super important, we think anyway. The other thing, though, Microsoft has our own skin in the game, so to speak. So between Microsoft Fast Track, which is a group that's funded out of our product team where I live, those Fast Track solution architects and engineers can go in alongside partners and help make sure that customers are successful as they plan and implement and go live. The Fast Track team has been involved in thousands upon thousands of implementations all around the world, so they've been able to learn from those and figure out the best practices, what works well, what maybe doesn't work so well, pitfalls you want to avoid, those kind of things. And then after the fact, there's obviously Microsoft Unified, which is our support organization, where you can tap into our support team to keep you supported over time with customer success. So it's a multifaceted effort. We always want to make sure that customers are successful as they go through the journey, and then and make sure that at the flip side, when it's all said and done, they're willing to share their story with other customers. And that's one of the things that I love to do the most, which is talk to successful customers and then relay their stories to other customers.
Do you have example of Fortune 500 companies that have implemented the product, success story, what we've learned from those implementations?
Yeah, picking up on what I was just saying, I love to tell the stories of other customers and what they've been doing. So one of the ones that we actually featured in our business application launch event earlier this year is Lenovo. The company that makes the I think of them as the laptop company, but I know they do a whole lot more than laptops, a whole lot more than ThinkPads. But I happen to have a Lenovo device right over here that I love really much, and it works really well. But they've seen a 20% improvement in handle time that their agents are experiencing after they implemented Copilot. So at the very beginning of our conversation, we talked about improving average handle time. Well, they've seen their average handle time improve by 20%. So that's a huge, huge benefit. I also mentioned the Microsoft stats earlier. Like, we're a Fortune 500 company. We've implemented this internally. I might actually share the slide. I kind of mentioned some of the stats, but let me go ahead and share it just so you can see the stats and have a little bit of a visual aid if you want. But here's just some of the stats we've seen as we've done this inside Microsoft as Microsoft Customer Zero, as we said before. So first of all, even before we got into Copilot, right, just implementing our own Dynamics 365 customer service and contact center capability, we saw a 20% reduction in missed routes where a conversation was landing with a live agent that shouldn't have landed with that person, was routed wrong. We've also seen a 31% increase in first call resolution, which is another huge metric that most contact centers look at. Like, how can I make sure that I solve this problem the first time? Could be a call, could be a conversation through chat or whatever, but basically first contact resolution is probably a better way to phrase that. And then with Copilot themselves, we've seen three really interesting metrics. We've seen this reduction in average handle time. It ranges from 12 to 16%. So Lenovo is actually better than we are. They're at 20%. We're at 12 to 16%, depending on the business. We've also seen an increase in the number of cases that agents can actually manage, somewhere between 9 and 12%, again, depending on the business. And then the last one is really an interesting one about the decrease in agents needing to go get peer assistance. Like, okay, we don't want to stop agents from talking to their peers, but if the first place they can go is to Copilot and have Copilot give them an answer that they can use, that means that agent doesn't have to bother another agent to get help, right? There's always going to be instances where, an agent's going to have to seek help from maybe a more senior agent or someone who's more experienced. We're not going to stand in the way of that. Actually, we have tools built into the product to help you do that with built-in Teams collaboration. But if we can reduce that a little bit, that just frees up more time for those senior agents to work on the harder problems. And you see the size and scope of our support organization at the bottom. I mentioned 145 million interactions every year, and we're across all sorts of countries, across all sorts of types of customers as well. Everything from really large enterprise customers down to everyday consumers that are using things like Xbox, right? So it's a pretty, maybe not the largest support organization in the world, but it's definitely one of the more complicated ones. So I think Lenovo is a good example. Microsoft's a good example. We've got a lot of other good examples up on customers.microsoft.com. If you just go out and take a look at that website, you'll be able to see a lot of other interesting customer stories.
You mentioned a lot, reducing or automating some of the tasks, reducing the workload. I suppose that people are worried of losing their job, right? So what will you answer to those people?
Yeah, I just think it's It's going to be on a case by case basis. Different customers may want to have different business goals, and maybe some of their business goals are to reduce headcount a little bit. I personally am a more optimistic person. I think it's more about giving the agents more tools that they in their toolbox to do their job more effectively. As you said earlier, like we're eliminating some of the drudgery and some of the monotony out of their jobs. So they don't have to do some of the work that they don't want to do, and they can focus on the work they really want to do, which is working with customers and solving problems. Um, it also helps those junior agents become more senior agents because of the stat we just talked about. I think it's actually going to help the same number of agents do a better job at what they do. And ultimately, I saw some post somewhere on LinkedIn where it said you're not going to lose your job to AI. You're going to lose your job to someone who is using AI. Like so, it's not you versus AI. It's you versus other people that have AI in their toolbox. And so that's where I think Copilot really shines. It's going to help the existing agents you have be that much better.
Yeah, I think the same actually, and I love that quote because it really represents. It's a tool. It's not there to replace you, but if you
Yeah,
don't use
exactly.
the
Yeah.
tool, you become less effective than the people that have the tools. It's like a
Yeah.
car.
And one of my colleagues said it's not a replacement for your brain. So like don't view Copilot as just I'm going to ask Copilot a question. And what it says is exactly what I'm going to tell my customer. Like you still have to have some critical thinking here and say, well, is that the right answer? Is that the right answer for this customer in this situation? So there's still some human, we call it human in the loop, right? Where the human's going to have to look at some things and decide if that's accurate or not. So I think it's just like you said, it's a tool. It's a tool just like any other, but it can't replace it. It can't replace a person.
But like any tools, it will require time to adapt, and start to use it properly, making it an habit of using it. So, what will you say are best practice for organization looking to start using contact center?
Yeah, I mentioned one of them, which is customers.microsoft.com, looking out at what other customers have done, right? And that's a good way of understanding where customers are coming from and where they're going, what their best practices are, et cetera. Another one is just basically taking advantage of some of the other resources we mentioned, our partners, our fast track team, some of the success by design guidance we have, a lot of the learning information that we have up on learn.microsoft.com. So those are the best places to get started. But really, as we said at the beginning, one of the best things to do is just get started. Like get going, try some things out. Maybe it's something just as simple as using it to help you generate email responses to customers if email is a channel, right? Just try it out and get started, and then you can learn and evolve and enhance your Copilot experience over time.
Thank you so much. Actually, that's all the time we had together. Any final advice for CIOs, CEOs out there that might listen to us?
I think it's again just find a place to get started. One of the places I also like to recommend people to get started if they're a little nervous about this is think about their internally facing support organization, internally facing contact centers. Things like your HR help desk or your IT help desk or your facilities help desk or whatever, right? At Microsoft, Sammy, we have this thing called Ask HR, where if I have an HR question, I can engage the HR group, but I engage them kind of like a contact center, right? I go through a self-service bot. If the self-service bot can't answer my question, it can take me to a real life human, and that real life human can answer it. But being able to take these same concepts and apply them inside your company is a good way to kind of get your feet wet and understand how it all works, and then decide, okay, now that I'm comfortable, now I can start using it outside the company.
Thank you so much for the advice. Thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure. I learned a lot. I think people listening to us have learned a lot as well at how those tools are working, what they can expect from it, and what the future will bring in terms of evolution for those tools. So thank you so much for joining us today, Marcus.
Thank you, Samuel. It's always great to see you. Always great to spend time with you.
Thanks.